Hungary, I am back. Incredible. This is wonderful to return to Hungary. I have been traveling around the world as I continue to do every year. It's really a very crazy life. In the past 6 weeks, I performed in 9 countries. This is what I do. I travel around the world playing drums. And I love this. It's really incredible. I began playing drums when I was 11 years old, and by the time I was 12 years old in 1 year, I was playing professionally. And all the musicians were older than me. So when I played music, it was great to hear the music. Well, 45 years has gone by very quickly. I am now 57 years young. This is very important. Not 57 years old. 57 years young. And this is amazing because I play the drums. When people ask me, what do I do for a living? I tell them, I hold wood in my hands and I hit plastic and metal. And I make noise. That's what we do. That's what we do. So when they ask me, well, how do you make money? How do you get paid? I tell them, oh, if I organize the noise. If I organize the sounds that I have, and we put this together, we create this feeling. What you just heard from George and his band, and of course from Cornell and Gabor, was a great sense of feeling, a great sense of passion, of dedication. This is incredible that these artists have dedicated themselves to their lives to play this instrument. And I love this. I take about 200 airplane flights a year, traveling around the world 2 and 3 times. This is crazy. I just performed yesterday in Poland, and I performed in the morning for a television show that went to about 10 million people in the morning. Then in the afternoon, I performed a master class for a large school of kids about drumming. And then in the evening, we drove 2 hours to go to a music store to play a clinic and to meet 200 drummers. Finished, drove back to Gdansk, got back to my hotel room at 2 o'clock in the morning. The taxi came to pick me up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Went to the airport and flew from Gdansk to Warsaw, Warsaw to Budapest. And here I am. This is great. But what gives me the energy is you. You give me the energy because of the incredible desire to hear drumming and learn about drumming. This is a wonderful art form. And as you heard from George, Cornell, and Gabor, these are incredible musicians, very hard-working musicians. They work hard, they practice every day. This is what is needed, to put that kind of dedication every day to learn this instrument. And as I travel, I was just in Spain, and then I was in Holland, then to Poland, now in Hungary. I then leave for Germany for 2 days, go back to New York where I live for 2 days, then go to Canada for 1 week, then back to New York for 2 days, then off to China and Taiwan, then back to New York for 2 days. Boy, New York is only 2 days. That's crazy. That's what I do. But that's what it is. And by traveling and meeting people, everywhere I travel around the world, the people that I meet, drummers are the best people in the world. They really are. Drummers, I mean, drummers are just the nicest people. And we have these kinds of SABIAN days and these drum festivals all around the world. You don't hear about guitar festivals or bass guitar festivals, or let's go to a synthesizer festival. They don't do that. Drummers, we do this. We do this. It's incredible, right? And in every city all around the world. And I love, as I returned to Hungary, it was 7 years ago that I was in Hungary last time, and that's too long a time. I want to come here every year so I can see everybody because the people are just wonderful. You are so loving and you're so wonderful and warm. This is so great. The people are great. The food is incredible. The women are beautiful. And the women are beautiful. And the women are beautiful. I said that, right? I said that. I go, okay. It really is amazing when I come by here to see the smiles and the enthusiasm to play drums. And that's what this is about. All these great companies that get together, SABIAN cymbals, and Vic Firth sticks, and Mapex, and Evans, and Sonar, and all these companies, they get together to support education, to put on a show like this here so we can present the ideas of music so we all can continue to learn. That is what this is all about, to continue to learn. When I was here 7 years ago, I had the great chance of Gabor take me to his store and showing me what he was doing, and he's a dedicated drummer that's got a great store here. Would you please give a great round of applause for Gabor and his store, Tam Tam, which is incredible as a drummer and a drum store here in Budapest. This is incredible. Thank you so much. Let's hear it for him. Come on. Incredible. Thank you so much. And then at one point we drove to the drum museum. Did you know you have a drum museum here in Hungary? Yes. This place is incredible. Yes. I was there 7 years ago, and I heard now from Sándor that the drum museum, there's more drum sets there, and there's more to see. So I ask you all to go back to the drum museum and see what's happening. Here's a great calendar that Sándor just gave me of all different months of different drum sets, and this really shows the history of drumming. We have an incredible history of drumming. A beautiful history. What's amazing is that the great drummers before us came by and they played music and they began this incredible art form, the drum set. These great drummers like Buddy Rich and Louis Bellson and Gene Krupa and Baby Dodds, Chick Webb, Sid Catlett, unbelievable, Shelly Manne, Max Roach, Elvin Jones, all these great drummers before us that started, and they started playing drums because of one thing. They loved music, and they loved drumming. And I believe it's all about art. Art is about one thing. All art, whether it's painting, or dance, or theater, poetry, art is about one word. What is that one word? What is art about? All art. Self-expression. Well, this guy's good. Self-expression. That's exactly what it is. Expression. To express yourself in art. What you just heard from George and the band was incredible self-expression, where they played music and the Beatles come together and they changed it around, and it was incredible. Then you heard Cornell and Gabor performing and playing and improvising and discussing and having a conversation with each other. We were listening. This is unbelievable. This is really what is the magic of our art form. And all these great masters that came before us. The drum set, this incredible instrument that started many, many years ago, over 100 years ago, this drum set began. And before that, there was a drummer that played with a strap and the drum on the side and the marching drums. And they played this marching drum and they marched in the military and they played this drum, one drum. Then many, many years ago, in the early 1900s, there was a young musician by the name of Louis Armstrong, this great young musician in America that heard some music in his head. He heard a certain kind of music, and it really was amazing that he heard this music. It had never been played before, but he heard it in his head. And the music he heard was incredibly, he heard this music in his head, so he began to write it out. Then he had to find musicians that could play that music, because at that time, the only music was military music. Dun, 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 and that was what they heard. Well, Louis Armstrong, he heard this different music. And in America at that time, when many immigrants were coming to America, they came to the land of opportunity. They said the streets were paved with gold. You could go to a country and own some land and build your opportunity. And people went to America, and they did. So Louis Armstrong wanted to create some music that felt the feeling of freedom. So he called it jazz, this jazzy kind of music. So when he found some musicians, they began to play, and they would play their music. And the band would play, but they didn't have a drummer. At that time, you had one drummer that played the snare drum, another drummer that played the bass drum, and another drummer that played the hi-hats. 3 guys that played. One guy played over here, this guy played over here, this guy played. That's what they did. So Louis Armstrong said, I gotta get one guy. So he tried to see if he could have some drummers play this jazzy kind of music. So when the military drummers came to play, Louis Armstrong would start the band, and the drums would start. No. He said, stop the band. Can you make it feel like the music we're playing? Oh, okay. They started again. And the drummer. No. He couldn't find a drummer to really play this kind of music. And it was a different feeling. So then one day, he went to the theater. The theater, like this here. The theater. And at the theater many years ago, before there was radio or television, you went to the theater. And there were performances every night, and you went to the theater. And at the theater, someone would come out and sing, someone would come out and tell jokes, someone would come out and tap dance. They would do all these different things at the theater. So one day, Louis Armstrong was in the theater, and he heard a young man tap dancing, step dancing. And he goes, whoa, that's what I need for the drums. So after the show, he went to that young tap dancer and said, excuse me, what's your name? And he said, Baby Dodds. Now this was a grown man, a big man, and his name was Baby Dodds. A little confusing. When his parents called him Baby, didn't they think he was going to grow up? That was a tough one. So then we come on, his name was Baby Dodds. So Louis Armstrong said, listen, baby, can you play that step dancing pattern on the snare drum? He goes, maybe. Maybe Baby could play the snare drum feet on with the drum. Right? So now he gets a drum and he grabs it and he begins to play. Ra-da-da-dee-don't, beetle-a-bat-da-bat-da-bat, and Louis Armstrong says, that's it. So they come by and they bring Baby Dodds with the snare drum over to the rehearsal, and the band comes in, a trumpet player, a sax player, a tuba player, a trombone player, and they get together and they start playing. And Baby Dodds starts to play. And they're going, wow, this is incredible. So Baby Dodds would stand up with this drum and play the drum. So now the band would go out and perform, and everyone loved the music. This jazzy kind of music was happy, it was positive, it was fun, People were dancing to it. This was incredible. This was like freedom of music, a freer kind of music, a self-expression kind of music. Incredible. So now, at that time, there was a young kid by the name of William Ludwig who had the idea of inventing a bass drum pedal that you actually played with your foot, and it played the bass drum with your foot. This was like they landed on the moon. Incredible. You mean you're gonna play that with your foot? Whoa. Let me see. Whoa. So now they turned the bass drum, instead of playing it this way, they turned it around, put the bass drum pedal on the bass drum, and it was a bass drum with a long neck and a big felt round head. And when you played it, it went, oh. The bass drum was big, and when it hit it, it rang, oh. And that was the bass drum. So you hit the bass drum, oh. And this thing would go forever. It was incredible. So now they'd play with the band, they'd go back with Louis Armstrong, with the band, and now Baby Dodds was a step dancer, so he had good control of his foot. So now they played. And the feel really started to feel incredible. Absolutely. This is about 1910, 1909, around there. And they're playing, it was incredible to play. This feeling of music. So now, William Ludwig says, boy, what would happen if we invent two cymbals to play that play it this way on a spring with your other foot? Whoa! This was like, what are you, crazy? You want to use both feet and your hands? Oh, this is impossible. And Baby Dodds said, yeah, let's try it. So they put together this little cymbal. It was only like this high. They called it a sock cymbal because it went as high as your socks. That was already the sock cymbal. It was only like this high. So now Baby Dodds would have the drum on, this big drum, with the sticks, with the bass drum, with the hi-hat. Now they're playing. And the band is playing, and they would play in front of thousands of people. And they would work every night. And many times they would play for 6, 7, 8 hours at a performance. 8 hours of playing, and Baby Dodds would sit there playing for 8 hours, holding that drum and until finally Baby Dodds had a huge understanding in his mind. He said, I have got to sit down. This was the beginning of the drum set. Really amazing. So once Baby Dodds sat down, then they moved the drum to the front. They made the drum shorter. They made the hi-hat higher, the bass drum a little lower, and the evolution of the drum set began. The evolution of the drum set was evolved because of drummers. It wasn't a scientist wearing a white robe in back of some laboratory. It was drummers, the needs of the music. We needed the hi-hat higher. We needed the bass drum smaller. Then we needed tom-toms and cymbals and eventually boom stands and heavier boom stands. And this really has become an incredible evolution of what we do. We are in the middle of the continuing of the evolution. The evolution has not changed. It hasn't changed. It continues to grow. We are now in the 21st century, and we are beginning in the second decade of the 20th century. The first 10 years are over. We're now into the second decade, so the 21st century really is now the beginning of what can happen with music and what can happen with drum set. So to me, the first stage is the expression. Art is about expression. Second is the language that I choose to speak my expression is the language of music. Music, the language of music. I have two languages. I speak English and I speak music. It really is that way. And music is the most important language because it is understood by everybody on this planet. Everybody can feel the music. It's incredible, the music, how the language, little change can change the language. I was the first drummer to perform in mainland China in 1990. It was incredible. When China was very much of a closed country and they invited me to come by to perform and teach for the drummers of China. So I was very honored to go there, and I went there with many of the people from SABIAN Cymbals, and we had gone there to adventure into this land of China that nobody really had been there before. So when I got there, the first event, the first clinic that I performed at, had about 5,000 people. 5,000 people came to the first drum clinic. It was incredible. It was jammed with people. They were everywhere. Now, I had an interpreter when I got to China because the Chinese language is a very, very difficult language to understand. So I asked my interpreter, "What is your name?" And he said, I said, "Too long. We're going to shorten it. I'm going to call you George. When you hear the name George, you look at me." He said, "Oh, okay. That's how it began. See, it's different here, because in this country, every translator's name is Gabor. True, right? So now we go by there, and what was amazing is, backstage, I said to George, "George, you got to teach me how to say #1 excellent. I want to walk out and say, this is #1 excellent." He says, "Okay. Tsihada. I said, "Okay. Tsihada." He said, "Oh, very good. Tsihada." So I'm backstage, so I'm practicing. Tsihada. Tsihada. See, I'm working on this. I can see. I am ready for this. So I go down there now. I'm excited, man. I walk out there, and I hear him walk out, George, and there's two microphones, one here and one here. So George walks out first, and he says, "Dom Famularo." I look at the crowd, a sea, an ocean of 5,000 people. And I say, "Si Hada!" Woo! Nothing. Nothing. The people look confused. They're confused. So George looks at me, I look at George, so I think the people didn't hear me. I must say it louder. So I'm looking at George and back at George, and he's looking at me, and I'm going back at George, I'm going back at this. So I say, "Oh man, see Hana, woo, yeah, baby, woo!" Nothing. So now George says to me on the stage, "Why are you saying that?" I said, "George, what do you mean, why am I saying that? I'm trying to say #1 excellent." He said, No. #1 excellent is sihada. You must go up. You're saying sihada. You're going down. Different phrase. Now I'm talking to George on the stage in front of 5,000 people. I said, "George, what am I saying?" He said, "You tell the people your mother pregnant." This is what I'm telling. Imagine. 5,000 people in a country of 1,300,000,000 people. And I walk out and I go, hey, your mother's pregnant. Woo! Yeah, baby. Woo! How stupid is that, right? I learned. And part of why I tell the story is because just like with language, the smallest change can be a great difference. The smallest sound, the smallest little sound of what can happen can change the way you feel. The sound of the way you hit a cymbal, the sound of the way you hit a drum, the way you approach your bass drum. And when you organize all these sounds, you take all this language. So first it's about expression, the most important thing, self-expression. Then it's the musical language we speak, the language of music. Third, it's the voice that we choose to speak, and my voice is drum set. That's my voice. That's your voice if you play drums. Whatever instrument you play, that's your voice. You have to learn to understand your voice. How many drummers do we have here right now, by a raise of hands? How many drummers do we have? Oh man, look at this, look at this. This is the best. I love you all. How many guitar players do we have? Okay, a couple guitar players. See, that's good. See, guitar players are really sick. They really are. You know, when you say like any drummers are like, yeah, yeah. When you say, are there any guitar players, they're really cool. When you say, any guitar players, you get this. That's all you get. Little motion. That's all you get. Drummers. Wah! Guitar players. I ask, how many bass players are there? See, there's one guy and he's lost. And he said, very good. Thank you so much for coming down. Hey, thank you so much. One bass player, and he was looking to go to the movies tonight. He got to the wrong place. That's what happens with bass players, yes. So it amazes me that as all musicians, we are one big family. And it's the performing and playing of music together that creates this feeling of socialization, of communication, of self-expression. And this is an incredible journey, as I have been doing this now for 45 years, all around the world. It still humbles me, and I'm still a childlike person. That when I play music, it's still incredibly fun. Now, my voice that I use, my drum set, let's see if it'll reach back here. My drum set here is a different kind of drum set in the fact that everyone's drum set is very different. How you set up your drum set and how you understand movement and how you understand sounds. This is my Mapex drum kit, and I have a 12, 10, 16, 14. This drum set, my toms are 10, 12, 14, 16, but I set the drums up 12, 10, 16, 14. 12, 10, 16, 14. Now, you ask why? Oh, you are good. And I answer, why not? Why not? There are no tom-tom police going to arrest you. You can do whatever you want to do. That's the magic of this instrument. You can put it anywhere you want to put it. You want toms in different places. You want to have them upside down. You want to change the tuning. It's incredible. So you create your own voice. Then with my SABIAN cymbals, I have all SABIAN HHX. This is a modern dark sound, a very modern sound, but dark. And my drums create a big dark sound, so I want my cymbals to match that sound, the blend of my drums to my cymbals. So I have the HHX, and I've got two ride cymbals, an evolution ride and a legacy ride, and I've got two crash cymbals, an 18-inch and a 17-inch, two splash cymbals, a 10 and 12-inch, two hi-hats, 14 and 13-inch, and two Chinese cymbals, an 18 and a 20-inch. So this drum set, I developed and I evolved from my sound. Now the heads that I use are Evans heads. On my snare is a coated G1, which has a certain sound for me that I love. And my toms, I'm playing an EC2, a clear EC2, which has a ring around the edge that takes out some of the low vibrations, takes out some of the high vibrations, and projects the low vibrations. It removes the high vibrations and projects the low vibrations. Pretty amazing sound of the way it's tuned. So with all this Sabian cymbals and Mapex and Evans, then I have my sticks, Vic Firth. They're just the best. They feel the best, they're paired the best. So these become all my tools of how I'm going to use my voice to speak the music to express what I feel. This really is the journey of what every musician goes through, to understand your instrument and find the right voice. Now I want to play for you. And when I play for you, I never know what I'm going to play. Every time I perform, I try to make it different. And of course, hearing George perform, George inspired me tremendously. A great touch that he had, beautiful musicianship. And then hearing Cornell and Gabor, these guys are incredible musicians. First-class musicians, international world-class musicians that are playing. And all these gentlemen together, as I heard them play, I stole ideas from them. This is very important. I stole ideas. Now that's a very important word, to steal. To steal the ideas. See, I say, I'm not gonna borrow the ideas, because if you borrow something, that means you're gonna give it back. I'm not gonna give it back. I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna keep this for as long as I can breathe. That to me is what's important. To steal what they have and take it in. Every artist that I hear, every artist that I perform with, I steal from. This past weekend I had the chance of hearing and performing and hearing so many great players. Steve Gadd and Steve Smith and Billy Cobham and Terry Bozzio and all these great players, Todd Zuckerman, all these incredible, Virgil Donati. Great, great artists, Will Calhoun. These are great, great musicians that have come out to play music and be dedicated for music for their entire life. And when I hear them all, I steal. Now, I want to play a little for you. Thank you. Hello, drums. I'm back. And I'm going to hit every single one of you. Every one of you I'm going to touch and feel and play. Oh, this is excellent. Hello. Thank you so much. How do you feel? Drumming is the best, right? How do you feel? Come on, you can do better than that. How do you feel? That is the best. This, for me, is the magic of drumming. To be able to sit down and play what you feel, to express what's in your heart, to combine what you feel in your mind, what you've learned, but let the feeling of expression be number one. Always let the moment of when you live in the now, in the moment, right now. I don't plan what I'm going to play. I don't really plan what I'm going to say. But for me, it's more about coming out and really feeling the audience and being in that moment right now. And each day I perform, it becomes different. Each time George performs with his band, it becomes different. They play in the moment. They play in the sense of that music, of how that music feels at that moment. What's amazing is when Cornell and Gabor played before, they played in that moment. They had patterns worked out, but they improvised in the feel of that conversation, that musical language. There's a great power there. The word I like to use is empowerment. Empowerment. Empowerment means to give power. To give power. And I believe the first place to begin is with yourself. With self-empowerment. Give yourself a power. When I practiced every day, I got better. I gave myself a power. I got better. I had great teachers, and they inspired me, and I went through many drum books. And now, in your world, you've got the internet, you've got DVDs, you've got an incredible amount of information that my generation didn't have. I asked you not to get eaten up by the beast of technology, but use the beast to ride its back, to take you someplace that my generation could not go to. You have all this downloadable music, YouTube to hear all these different video footage. And as good as YouTube is, it's not as good as going to a live concert. So use the tool of YouTube and use the tool of the internet only to inspire you to practice, to go out to hear live music. Live music, to hear bands interact and play with each other and perform and express that moment. And if you go to hear the same band the next night, you're going to probably hear similar songs, but a different feeling. That really is where the magic of music is. To find that moment and then express what you feel and bring joy and happiness to other people, this is incredible. Because of your talent of music, the gift you have. You're here today because you have a passion for music. That brought you here today to spend the evening with all of us together on this stage. To feel, to learn, to fuel that passion. To fuel it. We're going to put wood and coal on that flame and build that flame so when you go back to your home and you pick up your instrument, no matter what it is, drums, guitar, bass, keyboard, sax, violin, doesn't matter. Play that instrument like you have the deepest sense of responsibility. And learn that instrument. Take lessons. Find a private teacher to learn. What a teacher does is the teacher gives you information to make you think and to open up doors of expression and doors of ideas. As a teacher, it is my responsibility to inspire my students to aspire. Inspiration is to motivate them. Aspiration, aspiration is when they motivate themselves. That is magic. When that student leaves the lesson and they're excited to go practice, I did my job. I love teaching. When I'm not traveling around the world, I'm back at my home studio teaching. I have over 1,000 students that travel to me from 20 countries in my studio I call the Wisdom Drum Shed. If you go to my website, domfamularo.com, and go on there, and there's a mailing list there, type in your name and your email address, and I'll send you information of educational ideas from my travels around the world. And you'll get this information from me free. And you'll get this only, I do this to inspire you so you can aspire. It takes time and money to send all these emails out. You get it free. You get it, you open up your email, and there it is, a message from me. I want to connect with every drummer. I want every drummer to feel the music, to feel the power of the talent that you have, and to go out and express it. There are so many great talented musicians here in Hungary. I've met many of them right here in Budapest. Great, great talent. All you need is to look for that aspiration, to look at your dream and practice every day. And work at it. And hard work, it takes hard work. All these musicians up here, we're up here sweating to give you the most we can give you. But the difference is we love our work. We love what we do. There's really a certain excitement there that every time I play music, no matter where it is, I still feel like a child. I still feel like I'm discovering. I still feel like I'm learning. And I still feel like I have the desire to want to share these ideas. And I want you to steal. I want you to steal. Steal whatever you can from George. Steal what you can from Cornell. Steal what you can from Gabor. Steal from me. Steal from everyone. And take those ideas and put them into your voice and how you set your drums up and how you set your equipment and put them into your voice, into your musical language, and express what you feel. That really is the magic of music. Thank you so much. Thanks.